go with that example. You have 100K in income, and you take 50K for yourself, for your expenses as dividends, and you have another 50K to split. So now you have your parents on the corp and they're involved in your business because there's a reasonability test they have to meet. And that's why we need to get the accountants involved. And the liberals made this a little bit harder, and they put a penalty, what we call is the Tozy rules, which is if you don't do this right, that money that you're trying to give to a family member who's at a lower tax bracket will get hit with the highest tax rate anyway. So that's a penalty they put on to discourage people to try to do sketchy things. But if they're actually involved and what you're paying them is a reasonable rate, meaning let's say I have my dad come and do my bookkeeping at the office, let's say, and the bookkeeper gets $50 an hour in the open market, I can't go and pay my father $500 an hour. So if you're reasonable and you play by the rules, there could be some income splitting opportunities where you could take some of this money that you earned through commissions out to family members in lower tax brackets, and that will save you money because our tax system is tiered. So I've touched on that, the tax deferral or income splitting, and quickly on, so that's all good, right? So far we've talked about advantages. You get to, and it's great. I've been waiting for this, and I think the advantages are worth it, but I want to mention the disadvantages. So that's sort of like if you see the screen that Kyle shared, the bottom right box, I'm looking at on my phone, so it's not very clear. I'm just going to cover that quickly. So it's just the disadvantages, right? And this, thank you for choosing. Are we still good, Kyle?
Yeah, it's still working here. Can everybody see still? I think you're good. Yeah.
We're going over or something. We're good?
Yeah, everything's good.
Okay, and everybody's there. Okay. Let me just see one thing here.
So we've got a bunch of questions here, so just let me know when you're ready, and I can let you know those.
Yeah, I'm just about to wrap up. So let's just focus on the disadvantages, and this applies to just quickly. This applies to all corporations, right? Like disadvantages aren't that like the government has done prex any differently. Like, and I'll tell you quickly. So incorporation charges, which are not much. We charge anywhere between depending on the complexity of your corporation and your tax planning, any corporation, whether it's a prec or a dental professional corporation or for doctors, dentists, or for accountants, you have incorporation initial costs of, let's say, $1,000 to $2,500, right? Within that range. That's a one-time cost, and then maybe you have some upkeep to pass some resolutions, couple hundred a year with your corporate lawyer. Your accountant will tell them, here's dividends for this year, you pass a resolution. Not much. So the first bullet I don't think is a lot. The second bullet is higher accounting fees. And this will depend on the accountants, but my experience has been that obviously corporate tax is a little bit more nuanced. A lot of you might be like I do my own taxes on my commissions outside of my practice as a lawyer. Whatever I make as a realtor, I do that myself. It's fairly simple. You file your T1 and you can do it on the software. Corporate tax is a little bit more complicated, so you have an extra cost and an extra filing. I think the pain for a lot of people is that like every year you now have one more thing to file. So if you're an agent who is not making more than 100K a year to year anyway, and or the other point of that is it's not making more than they're spending, so there's nothing left at the end for them to retain and move to other years, maybe it doesn't make sense. But otherwise, I think for everybody else, this is a great opportunity. The third point is stricter compliance. So if you decide to withdraw money through payroll, you have to do a T4 and you have to make the monthly remittances for CPP and EI and all the stuff. The CRA, is on top of that stuff. You're a corporate taxpayer. you may have to have installments. I mean, as a person, as a sole practitioner, you might still have to do installments depending on how much you make. So you have that anyway. But generally, there's more forms and more accounting and a little bit more legal work if you are operating through a corporation. So that leaves us with that last point. So the advantages of incorporating primarily exist for high income agents. I've said this, who earn more than their personal spending requirements and can afford to leave some earnings in the corporation. So if that's you, then it makes sense. The next part, I think I've hit all these 4 points. I'm just trying to look on the screen. And I have some more information about how to set them up and what RICO requires. So I'll do that quickly in 1 minute, and then we can do a Q&A. So basically, every hold on, Kyle, I'm just getting an email. From one of the attendees, and they're saying experiencing issues, no sound, screen turned off 4 times. Do you have any feedback on the chat?
Yeah, is it working for everyone? Does everyone sees the screen sharing here? We're going to send out the handouts to everyone anyways, as long as you put your email address in the chat, we'll send it to everyone that needs it. Also, if you can see the screen share here, this is Ali's info, his email, his phone number, and this is the firm he works at. This is our brokerage. Ali's also an agent with us. So anyone
Okay,
that has...
somebody just emailed me saying, I don't think they're not with our brokerage, just said no sound and screen turns off. So hopefully the people that are here could hear us, but like Kyle
most people in the chat are saying it's working fine for them.
Okay, very good. And then we can, like you said, we will email them this like 1 page that I have, which is a summary of everything I just talked about.
Okay.
And I was just about to, okay, so the last point is, so every professional body has, you know, the right to regulate these professional corporations further than what the legislation says. So right now we have a legislation that allows us to incorporate. So if RICO decides that they want to have stricter rules and like start confirming names and have protocols for everything, they can do that. And I suspect that soon we'll have more direction from RICO, because they're also trying to figure out how to deal with this. A few interactions I've had with them for a few of the precs we've set up already, is that they're not fully, I have a feeling that they're going to start adding more stringent processes. But right now, all they're asking for is a notice. So once we set up your prec, we have to give them notice that, you know, this is the Kyle Bouchard Professional Corporation. This is the name. This is his address for service, and this is the brokerage he works at. So we do a letter to RICO and we confirm all that. I think they keep that on file. Makes sense to me because they want to keep track of who's who when the lawsuits start to come in, so they can serve documents on people. So they will at the very least, we have to give them notice. What I suspect will happen is what we have, for example, with dentists, with their college, is that if you use a name, first of all, they start allowing people to use names that are not their own. So far, I think it's going to have to be your name has to be in your professional corporation, and the name's professional corporation have to be in the name. If they start allowing you to do other funky names, or you have a name you want to trade under, I think at that point they'll have a process for them to approve the naming. But right now, the only naming protocols that we have to abide by, which we'll do once you come to us to set up your prec, is the same ones under the OBCA, the Ontario Business Corporations Act, which means we can't, in a nutshell, you can't be too similar to another established business. You can't be copying somebody's copyright. And professional corporations have to have the name professional corporations on them. Most people are going to use their own names. There is a question that had come up, a few of my clients, and I think a lot of people probably have, is whether you can use a business name or a trade name. You could do that with other professional corporations. For example, I'm going to use the dentist example again because I have a lot of dental clients. You could be, you know, Dr. Smith, then dentistry professional corporation, and then set up a business name, and the college approves it, called Smiles on Eglinton. And if they approve it, then we register a business name. The company is still one company, and we register a business name under it. I don't see why Prex can't do that, but we'll have to look into that if that's what you want to do. We don't have clear guidance from RICO yet. The only problem in the legislation right now is that it says you cannot hold yourself out to be trading in real estate under the PREC. So you can't pretend to be a brokerage. Like we have International Realty Firm Brokerage. It's obviously trading in real estate and it's registered. These are more just your personal corporations. You can operate under them and take your commissions under them. But in terms of advertising and the names you're going to use and all that stuff, we can talk about that one-on-one. It's getting figured out because this is all brand new. We've only done like 2 precs so far, and they just got announced like last week, and everybody's figuring it out. But we'll, as I find out more and on a case-by-case basis, we'll help you. And that's about it. I have a few other points, but I think we should jump into questions. I've tried to address these points within the questions.
Yeah, excellent. Thank you. I just want to give a big thanks to Ali for that. So he's kind of the expert on this right now. It's just such a new thing with these precs in terms of real estate, but he's been doing it for all the other professions, as he was saying. So if you want to get it done, this is definitely he's the person to talk to. Let's get to some of these questions here. There's quite a few, so I'll try to go from the top. Let me see here. Someone's asking about costs and accounting costs. Like with these things, you're going to want to have an accountant as well, right? So, like some of these, the accounting stuff, Ali's not really completely able to answer because he's a lawyer, right? So you're going to want to have an accountant as well. Ali, maybe you can recommend somebody once they contact you as well.
Yeah, sure. Like, look, I think once you start setting up your PREC, if you've been doing your taxes and your accounting yourself so far, I think it's now the time to switch to an accountant who knows what they're doing. I can give you a few names. They range in services. Like if you do your own bookkeeping and they just file your annual things, maybe they charge you. It's definitely more than your personal income tax because you're going to go to somebody and give them $100 to file your personal income tax, and I think corporate tax starts at 1,000 or something. So that's why I put that in one of the disadvantages. Because even for a simple corporate tax filing, I understand accountants charge quite a bit more than personal because it's a little bit more nuanced. But that's really one of your only disadvantages to incorporating. But I think that more than compensated for with the tax advantages. If you make more than you spend, and if you're a high earning agent, then it's a no-brainer. But if you're like a part-time agent and makes like less than 50K deal here and there, maybe it doesn't make sense.
Exactly. Yeah. Great answer. Okay. That was from Jamkar Singh. This is from Paul Sahota. He's asking if retained income can be withdrawn at low income years by declaring dividends. So yeah, so you could, as far as I know, I'll let you answer, but I think you can keep the income as long as you want. You just pay tax at the end of the year, right? You can retain.
Yeah, you gotta talk to an accountant about this as well. But my exposure to that has been again through other professional corporations, and so I have lawyers, dentists, accountants, and architects that I've worked for, and they use it to move money around from year to year and save for retirement. So I don't think there's a limit as long as you eventually have to deal with it. So what people do is, I know some lawyers do this, they save for because realtors like lawyers don't have a pension or anything like that. And a lot of people don't even have RRSPs. You can have it if you want. So you have to save for retirement. One of the big things we were fighting for with the government when we were campaigning for this is that realtors didn't have that vehicle that every other professional has to save for retirement, and they don't have pensions. So I think one of the main advantages is you leave that money in there, at least a little bit of it or whatever you want to save for retirement. I think you could invest it even. So you have to talk to an accountant, and it grows. And until you are in a lower tax bracket, maybe in retirement, and then you take it out then. So there you save the difference, right? So if right now you're at the highest tax bracket is like around 55%, and when you're retired, you only need 50K to live, that's the lowest tax bracket, I think it's like 25%. So you save that 25%. I think that's what's been sold as one of the main advantages of this.
Yeah, amazing. Okay. So Tanber Chowdhury is asking, currently my most expenses are under my name. If I incorporate, do I need to transfer all my expenses to the PREC? For example, cell phone bill, car lease, and home office expenses.
Excellent question, actually, because that was one of the points that I had written that wasn't in the slides, is that one other requirement you have if you have been an agent for a while and there's assets in so let's start with this. You as a person are a business and have a goodwill. In real estate, that's tied to you as a person. So it's Kyle Bouchard, he's the brand, and he's been running this, and he's built some goodwill in there, and maybe other assets. Maybe he owns his office, maybe he owns his car and cell phone, whatever. All of these are business assets that you have used in your personal name. So to do it properly from a tax and accounting perspective, that needs to be transferred to your PREC. So that's one of the more tricky parts. Setting up an incorporation is maybe it's not too complicated, and we'll do it for you. But a little bit trickier step is if you've been in business for a while, and you have to transfer the assets of that business. You have to do an agreement where your PREC basically buys those assets from you personally, and we have to get an accountant involved so we could do it on a tax-free basis, kind of roll it over. And you might need a valuation of what that's worth, because otherwise the CRA is going to just assign it market value if they audit it. So we need to talk about that on a one-on-one basis, especially if you have a lot of assets in your name. But that is hand in hand with what you were saying. Your expenses will also have to be changed as well. So once you're a corporation, you're a separate legal entity. So right now, you're a sole practitioner, your income is tied to you. Once you set up your PREC, that's a separate legal entity that could do business on its own, can get into contracts, can have a cell phone plan. It's its own person, and it will have its own bank account, right? So the first thing we usually do is, I've done just a few PRECs so far because it's just come in, but most of our other professional corporations is I'll give you your articles of incorporation and you go to the bank and you set up a new bank account, because now all of your expenses, depends on how you want to do it with your accountant, but usually from the day that you incorporate onward, you start switching expenses into the corp, because then when you do your taxes, these are the corporation's expenses. But very good question, and yes, everything needs to be moved to your PREC.
Okay, excellent. That was actually the next question was, do you have to have a separate bank account? And you answered that one as well. So you should have a separate bank account.
Yes,
And,
because it's a separate legal entity. I don't see how else, because once Kyle, or if you're with a different brokerage, your broker is going to give you your commissions, they're going to be payable to the corp. You can't put that in your personal bank account. And
right.
You don't want to do that, because then now you're muddying the whole advantage of this is that you could have expenses in the professional corporation and it could run on its own. The next piece to this is maybe you could sell this corp, right? So that I talked very briefly on the lifetime capital gain exemptions. It's going to be tough with the real estate corporations because they're so tied to you as a person. But I see this happening with dentists all the time, where they build the goodwill into that professional corporation, and then when they want to retire, they actually sell it. So this could have value: your name, your brand, your cell phone, your website, everything, your client base, everything you've built. When you go to retire, maybe you bring on a young agent and you actually sell your professional corporation to them. And then the first 800,000 of it, the gain in there would be tax-free if you qualify.
That's a really good point, yeah.
Yeah, I think this is going to start to happen. It's tough in this business. We'll start seeing it, but it's very possible. That's one of the other advantages that people have been selling about this. It's a little bit different because it's so tied to you as a person, but I don't see why not. right? Like if somebody comes in and you have built a client base over decades, and a new person wants to buy from you, that will have value in the market. So right now, I do a lot of, again, I'll go back to this because I do a lot of purchase and sale of dental offices. They have a multiplier. So they'll see, okay, this dental office makes X amount per year after EBITDA, earnings before, whatever that stands for, but earnings before taxes, basically, and amortization. Then they'll do a multiple of that, 3 times, 4 times, whatever. That's the valuation of this business. A new dentist comes along and buys them, and they change hands for a lot of money. There's no reason why that can't eventually start happening in real estate.
Excellent. Yeah, makes sense. Okay, I've got a couple of other questions here. One thing about car expenses we kind of answered already. Restrictions to the name of the prec. I think you answered that in the beginning. It's not completely clear with RICO yet, but it's easiest and best to just use your own name. Say Ali Daneshvar Professional Corporation. I would think, right?
Right. So far, there are no restrictions in the legislation. So it says you just have to abide by the OBCA, and the OBCA requirements are like any other company that you set up. We have to do a name search, and it can't be similar to a trade name or a business name or a trademark or anything somebody else owns. So the next part to that is it's possible then for somebody to have, Kyle Bouchard Professional Corporation, but he wants to have a business name as, Lux Homes or IRF Homes Inc. This is something we gotta still figure out. We've written to RICO to make sure your problem is RICO because the legislation doesn't say anything about it. So if the legislation allows you to do it, and then you can start to have more funky names, as long as RICO knows and approves it and knows that this name is assigned to this agent, because they want to make sure that it's an agent and they're insured and all that good stuff. So once that gets sorted out, it is possible that what we'll have is like dentists, they'll have, Dr. Bouchard Dentistry Professional Corporation, but we'll set up a business name for them as Smiles on the Danforth. And the college approves, and they're like, it's a one corporation, but has a different business name. It's possible, and we'll have to see where that goes. But for now, the ones we've done have been, Ali Daneshvar Professional Corporation.
Okay, great. So I don't know, Zoom might cut us off at any time here. I think we're supposed to get 40 minutes for this one, but I'm going to try to get through as many questions as we can.
I think I already got that warning, Kyle.
Oh, did you get a warning?
I got a warning and nothing happened. So
okay, all right.
Hey,
So
Kyle, Ali, how are you guys? Hi, everybody.
hello.
Abraham's here
Hi.
with us. He's one of our managing partners of the brokerage.
Hi, guys. I'm very happy to see that we have a nice amount of participants, 40 people.
Yeah.
I have a question for Ali. What's the cost for incorporation for that kind of process? And do you do that? Do you provide that service? And would you give some kind of a nice package incentive for our agents?
Only for Abraham. He's gonna have his own pricing model for good-looking agents like yourself. It's its own pricing model. I'll have to give it to you in the DM. But
Okay.
Jokes aside, it is, yeah. So I've thought about this a bit. Look, if the structure that your accountant wants is not complicated, and we're not adding a whole bunch of family members, and it's just you and you're the sole shareholder and the sole, which most of them are going to be, and you're the sole shareholder and you're the sole director and officer, then usually the cost of incorporating is not different than any other incorporation. And I think about like usually it's $1,250 to $1,500 plus the GST and disbursements. But for IRF agents, we can offer like a 10% discount for the rest of October or something like that. Happy to do that.
Excellent, thank you.
But like, just reach out to me one-on-one. If it's not complicated, look, whatever we're going to charge is going to be the same as any other lawyer, except like we're starting to know what we're doing kind of, because this is very new, and you got to set it up properly, and not a lot of people know what these things even are. But my firm and I will probably know the most, because we're like kind of have a first mover advantage, and we've been talking to RICO about this stuff already. I've been on top of the legislation for a while. So, but it's not going to, that cost is not, it's like sort of like a commodity. What the reason I want to do this is to introduce our firm to all of you good agents out there. So if you have clients that are doing commercial deals, you will use us because that's really our main expertise is in development now, buying and selling of plazas and lots for development and assemblies and condominiums and all that kind of good stuff. So that's really where our expertise are. And then I do corporate law. We do corporate as well. Corporate law is things like this, setting up professional corporations and stuff. But they go hand in hand. So it's not something we're getting rich on. It's just a service we're offering to all the agents that are on this call and all the IRF agents. And we'll offer a discount and then it's just for you to get an introduction to our firm.
Perfect, and much appreciated as well. Sorry, I would like to unmute everybody so they can ask questions, but it's just hard. There's so many participants, and I'm still getting used to the Zoom call setup here. But maybe for the next one we do. So I'll just read them out for now here. One person was asking, can they use an existing corporation? That was Brad that was asking that. Yeah, probably a new one, right? Is better.
I don't think you can, and even if you could, it's going to cost you the same thing to try to, because you have to organize it so it qualifies under this new legislation. Mm-hmm. If you do it brand new from scratch, it's probably going to cost you less, to be honest.
Right. Okay, makes sense. Yeah, a new one is probably much
and
easier.
I think what they're going to have issues with is if you have a corporation that wasn't a PREC, there's no. I honestly, the short answer is no.
Okay. Yeah, and opening a corporation is not that expensive. You're gonna have a package deal.
Complicated, and the PRECs didn't exist before now. So if you had a corporation, how could we? Yeah, I don't think you can do it.
Right. Robbie's asking, can we use one corporation as a realtor and one as a mortgage agent? This corporation, the PREC, would have to be only for your real estate business and only for yourself. That's correct, right? Yeah.
Correct.
Okay.
If you have a different mortgage business and a different mortgage company, that's your prerogative, and that goes with whatever the legislation is for mortgage brokers. But this is just for real estate agents and brokers.
Right. Okay, makes sense. Can you take commission that you have already collected from earlier this year and put it in the PREC?
That's a good question. I think the short answer is no, because we'll have to talk to an accountant about this. But my inclination is no, because if the entity didn't exist, how could it have earned money? That's my legal problem with it, just from a legal standpoint. So I think as of the date of incorporation going forward, if you earn income, like if you have commission that hasn't been paid yet, I think you're okay. Like if it closes in 2 months and now we incorporate, I think you're okay. You can take that. But if you already take it in your personal name, the answer is 99% no. But an accountant can confirm. But I don't know how you would pay a company that didn't exist.
Right. I would agree with that. Here's not a question, but a comment from Daniel. He says you set up his marketing company as a corporation a few months back. He says you're very knowledgeable, made a smooth experience, delivered a very detailed minute book in a timely manner. Would definitely recommend you as a knowledgeable professional backed by one of the best firms in the city. So that there's a good testimonial for you.
Thank you, Daniel. That's very nice. You don't hear that often, especially lawyers. Nobody likes their lawyers, guys.
Yeah, if you have a good one, it's definitely stick with them for sure.
Thank you, Daniel.
Does it help with multiple income sources? I think that's kind of on the same lines as this is just for your real estate commissions. This is all this is for. Is that right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Look, something else I wanted to say quickly on that is, you see that page, if any of you file your own taxes. Right now you file your taxes and then there's one schedule where you put your income and your expenses. You put the commission on top and you deduct everything you spend on your cell phone, on your car, and all that stuff. That is now what's going to all be moved to a corp. So that's it. So the commission gets paid to the corp, and all of your expenses are expenses that the corp paid for. And then what's left at the end is the net income of the corp. The beauty of it is, before, because you didn't have a separate legal entity, all that money had to be taxed and paid within your tax year. So December 30, oh, the other piece of this is you could have different fiscal year ends because you're a corporation, so you could choose what fiscal year end you want to move your money around. But right now, the way you do, everybody's been doing it is you are as a person, sole practitioner, your fiscal year ends December 31st, regardless. You don't have this, you can't move it around. So December 31st comes and goes, you file your taxes, you have to pay all of the taxes and all of that commission. In a corp, you don't. You can move your fiscal year around and you can move the money around.
Great.
It's all for the commission. It's not like whatever you could do as a person. Like right now, you run your business as a single person, but it's still separate from you. So you know how you should be. When you go and take a client out, that bill is a business expense. All of that stuff is still the same, except now it's in a corporation.
Right. And you have to think of the corporation as a completely separate entity, with its own bank account, as if it's another person kind of thing.
Exactly.
Okay.
And
So
it's this other person, and all it does is real estate. It makes real estate commission. It spends money. It does advertising. It does whatever it does, this company, and its job is to make real estate commission.
Right. And then we'll have some accountants we can recommend as well for anyone who's interested and needs an accountant. We'll have some people. So this one's from Daniel Greco. He's asking, he has a case scenario here. If an IRF realtor makes 175,000 in revenues and has 40,000 in expenses, making net income for the year $135,000, would this individual be considered a good candidate for opening a prec?
Absolutely. I think that's exactly where you need to be, because if you look at our tax brackets, I think the highest one you hit the highest one after 120.
Right.
So if you're making more than that, you're already at the 50 or 55% tax bracket. So now you could take a very significant discount on your taxes and move that money to a year where you're not going to have as much income, assuming you're not. But if you're on this, if you're this excellent agent, like many of you are, and you're on this trajectory where you're only going to make more and more and more, then you're only going to use this when you retire. But if you have this volatility that a lot of people have, you could move the money around from year to year. That's what it's for. And that example is perfect, because in your example, you're saying I make 170 and I spend 40, so you have 130 of retained earnings. So your life expenses or your business expenses, sorry, not life, your business expenses are so much less than your business income that you have a retained earnings worth enough to move around to other years.
Okay, excellent. Question from Mike Harrington. It's something about having a separate corporation that qualifies for a prec. We would, like we said, we recommend you open a new corporation. That way everything's done properly and it's all separate, and it's about the same expense as trying to use an existing corporation anyways.
On that, just quickly on that, reminds me of something else that I forgot to mention. There is a way for you to have a corp, have tiered levels if your accountant wants that. So you could have your shares in this corp owned by another corp. As long as we qualify and we comply with the rules, where it's still controlled by an agent or a broker, all that good stuff. You could tier it out if your accountant recommends that for tax planning, but that's a one-on-one conversation.
Okay, great. Like a holding corporation kind of setup.
Yeah, I think there is room for that. Everybody I've done this for so far has been straightforward. They've been the sole shareholder themselves in their personal capacity, and that seems to make sense for everybody. But if you have more fancy and more money, if you have a very established real estate business that's worth millions of dollars and you're making a lot of money and it's worth trying to think about some tax planning, then we'll talk to an accountant and see if there's other mechanisms that we could introduce within this prec.
Interesting. Yeah. So there's lots of levels to this, everyone. So you want to have the best professionals that is knowledgeable about this. You don't want to just take any lawyer or anybody who just came out of school. You want someone who's experienced, and there's all kinds of different levels, so you could take advantage of this.
Yeah, I appreciate that. And look, on that, we do a lot of fancy tax planning stuff for other professionals, and I'm sure that's all going to start with once these precs are going to come in, and then fancy tax plannings are going to start happening. Usually we do it with an expert tax accountant who comes in, we do state freezes and like family trusts and all sorts of things. So those would just be, so think of your professional corporations as this umbrella. You set it up, you start making money in it. Within that, if there is enough money for you to justify tax planning, then reach out to me. I'll put you in touch with the tax accountant, and they will come up with any other mechanisms you think might work for you. And then once they give us instructions, we can set up a holdco for you. We can do a state freeze. We can do a family trust. There's all sorts of fancy things. It all depends on how much money you're making. It has to be worth it to spend them, because every layer you add is another annual filing to make, and accounting fees and lawyer fees and all this stuff. If there's enough money to be saved, then happy to help you with all that stuff one-on-one.
Great. Okay. We had another question from Shaheen Khalili about the name. Like we said, probably the best way to go is just name it your own name, first and last name, professional corporation. That way you're the safest.
Right, Shaheen, so far that's what it's been, the ones I've done. The legislation is silent. It says you can name it whatever you want, but elsewhere it says that it has to be compliant with other professional corporations, and other professional corporations we do for accountants, lawyers, dentists, doctors say the name professional corporations in them. So I don't think you can get rid of professional corporation. But if you have a trade name or something like you're like Shaheen, but you want to trade under Sam, let's talk about that one-on-one. I'm looking into that, and I've written to RICO to see where they stand on that. So if people want to start getting fancy with their names, two things: either get fancy with the name in the corporation itself, if it's allowed, or if it's not allowed, set up the corporation as Shaheen, professional corporation, but then register business names for it, which we do with other businesses. So we're looking into that, and as soon as I have a clear directive, then we can talk about that one-on-one and set that up for you. For example, Shaheen Professional Corporation is the company, but you have 2-3 business names that we register for you that you trade under, that you advertise under, or something like that. I could see like things like that opening up because they do that for other professionals.
Okay, great. So one of our agents, Ravi Gadipati, is asking, he has a couple of deals that closed recently, and he wants to open the PREC as soon as possible. And then is he able to have those upcoming payments for those deals he's done before into his PREC?
I think it's a question really for both of us, Kyle. We kind of answered this. I think if the corporation, we'll have to check with an accountant as well, but if I set up, Ravi, if I set up your PREC this week and your commission, your closing is next week, and well, obviously reach out to me, we'll set it up as soon as possible if you have big commissions coming in so you can take advantage of it. But I think it's at the time of closing, because then that's when it's cash, like you do cash accounting and it's earned when you get paid, not at the time of signing it up. If that's the case, I don't see why not. For a deal that you've signed but haven't closed. Definitely for deals that you're going to sign now, onward, because now you have a PREC and you're practicing through your PREC. But for deals that you signed up in your personal name and now you set up your PREC, I think you should be able to, but Kyle and I will check with an accountant as well. And one of the things to ask RICO as well, because there's another piece to this that we didn't touch, that we have to have the legislation says that another piece to this is you have to have an agreement with your brokerage between your professional corporation, so your PREC, and the brokerage. We're trying to see with Kyle if there could be one master agreement with everybody, and that resolves it, or what exactly RICO is looking for on that, and we'll let everybody know.
Yeah, exactly. So from a brokerage point of view, this has only been kind of approved for about a week. So I'm in contact with RICO. We're going to find out exactly what we need. But like IRF is completely supporting these. So we'll figure it out either way and keep it as simple as possible for everyone to be able to get these PRECs going as soon as we can. And Ravi, I think your yes is the answer to that. So we'll work on that for you.
I don't think there's anybody more prepared than us on this thing. We have another some clients and some companies.
Your mic is kind of quieter now. I'm not sure if it went to your phone there.
Can you hear me still?
We can hear you, yeah, but it's almost like it's giving an echo.
Okay, so I'll try to come up closer. But anyway, I was saying this is still new, but we're in the best position to figure it out for everybody because
Yeah.
we've been following the legislation. As everybody knows, Kyle is super high tech and on top of this stuff and paperless. And
Oh, there it goes.
I've heard from other people that much like more branded and bigger brokerages, and they still don't even know what they're doing. But we're having a seminar on this, and we're all over it. So I think we'll figure it out all together. And it is a little bit of a learning experience for everyone, but I think we're best equipped to go ahead with it.
Yeah, absolutely, 100%. And one last question here from Parminder Singh. He's asking if two realtors, e.g. a family, can have one corp. I believe, I'll let you answer that one, but I don't think.
Yeah, very good question, actually. So I had this, and the short answer is let me step back for a second. You could have family members that are not agents as non-equity shareholders. That you can have. That's in the legislation. So they don't, as long as they don't have votes. So if they're non-voting shares, we could give your family members non-voting shares to help you with tax planning and income splitting and all that sort of stuff. But if you have a family member who's also an agent, what we do with dentists is, if a man and wife are dentists, they could have Mr. X and Mrs. Y dentistry professional corporation and do it all in one. I don't think that makes sense here. And it's so funny because the one I'm doing this week is a couple and they're both very successful and they're both agents, not with us, but with another brokerage. And it doesn't make sense because for the brokerage, unless if all of your deals are joint, it doesn't make sense because you need to have your separate precs so the brokerage can pay you your commissions. Now, once you set up your prec, there's no longer Kyle Bouchard as an agent. The only way Kyle Bouchard can get paid is in his professional corporation. So if your deals are not mixed with your wife, all the money gets muddied. So for the couple that I'm working with right now, we're setting up two separate ones.
Right. Yeah, separate is more simple, I think. Especially in the beginning, everyone's they're still trying to figure out exactly how they're going to do this. So okay, great. So I think that's everything.
Even if you could do it, like follow up to that, what would happen if, I'm assuming not all your deals are joint. So if your wife has commission, that goes into your joint corporation. How do you account for that? How do you then split it up? I don't think it's going to be a whole night. I don't think you can do this because of real estate and the way it is, and it's so person oriented. Like in a dentistry corporation, it's one office, and all the money goes in there, and the two dentists work together in that office, and all the money gets split up. But here, each agent runs it's like it's an entrepreneur on their own. So I don't think that will work here.
Right. Okay, makes sense. Does anyone else have any questions? I know there's a few people that joined recently. And if you have any questions or anything that wasn't answered, you think of anything later on, you can contact us through our website, www.internationalrealtyfirm.com, or contact Ali Daneshvar, our in-house lawyer. He's right here. Here's his information on the screen share. His number is 416-484-8674. And his email, adaneshvar@owenswright.com. And let us know. We'll probably do another one of these meetings. This went really well. And are you still with us, Ali?
Yeah, can you hear me?
Oh yeah, I just your screen went away, but I just want to see if you're still there.
Okay.
Yeah, big thanks to Ali, and let us know if there's anything we can do. And he's got a package for agents to set up precs within our brokerage and other brokerages if you belong to another brokerage. But I encourage you to check out our website as well, and use us as a resource for all of this information.
Look, just the last one, Scott. Thank you so much for organizing it. I echo your comments that it's sad that it's COVID and now this has to be done like this. It would have been great to have some refreshments and chat up afterwards, and hopefully we'll all get through this pandemic with the vaccine or whatever happens, and we can have these meetings in person. And I love that part of these things where you chat up by the coffee station after, which we're missing out on.
Yeah,
But
absolutely.
everybody, please feel free to reach out to me if you have any specific questions about this. It's new, we're learning it together. I've pretty set up to do them now because I've been, learning about it for a couple of years and been behind this legislation, like I said. So I might be, and I'm an agent myself and a lawyer, so I might be in a very unique position to be able to advise realtors on this stuff. So feel free to reach out to me. Like Khaled said, my email's there. You can also just Google Ali Daneshvar, and I think it's the first thing that comes up. I'm on LinkedIn. I'm on Facebook. I'm on Instagram. Wherever you reach out, feel free to reach out. I'm happy to help you guys. And Kyle, I think like you said, like you talked about making this a series. Talk about different issues that agents will have in closing deals and writing clauses for agreements, and I think it would be an interesting series to set up, which I think is a great idea.
Absolutely, yeah. We can maybe do a monthly series, and then we'll record them and we can have them available maybe on our website or something like that as well. That's great.
Yeah, that'd be amazing. Let's see what the feedback is. People also, whoever was here, I didn't have time to really look at the participants, but if you have any feedback for us, email us, write to Kyle, write to me, and we're happy to read all that. And I would personally love to get some feedback, whatever it was, good or bad.
Definitely. Okay, thanks everyone for attending. Thank you, Ali, and we'll talk to everybody soon.
Thank you, Kyle. Have a good day, everyone.
You too. Take care.